Big thanks to LitRPG Reads and Paul Bello
Fine fellow.
for sparking today's deep dive.
Yo.
So get this. I was DMing the other night. My players were in this ancient temple, like all forgotten and stuff. And I'm describing it all like, the air is thick with incense. There's carvings on the walls that seem to move in the torchlight.
Spooky.
And one of my players goes, dude, this is totally like that library in The Name of the Wind. We all had a good laugh.
Yeah.
But it really got me thinking, about how books can influence your D&D games, even without you realizing it.
It's true. Fantasy novels have a way of just seeping into your brain and changing how you think about things.
Exactly. Which is why I'm so excited about this article from LitRPG Reads. It's called Best Fantasy Books for D&D Fans Adventures Beyond the Tabletop.
Yeah.
Came out November 4th, 2024.
Nice.
And that's what we're diving into today. How all these amazing fantasy books can inspire your D&D games, whether you're a DM or a player.
It's like leveling up your imagination. You see how different authors build worlds, how they write characters, how they make a story really grip you.
And the first book they talk about is Brandon Sanderson's Stormlight Archive.
Great choice.
I mean, talk about epic, huge world,
Yeah.
amazing magic system.
Awesome characters.
It's like Sanderson wrote it with D&D in mind.
Well, let's talk about that magic system for a second. Surge binding. It's so visual, so well thought out. Imagine taking something like the Windrunner's Lashings
Oh, yeah.
and turning that into a D&D spell.
Where you can grapple enemies from far away.
Exactly.
Totally changes how you fight.
And then you've got characters like Kaladin. This guy's incredibly powerful, but he's also struggling with depression and self-doubt.
It's a story that really resonates with people. Okay, so we've got epic scale, amazing visuals. What if we want something a little more, intimate, lyrical? That's where Patrick Rothfuss comes in with his King Killer Chronicle.
Oh, I love those books.
Me too.
They're all about the power of stories, which is perfect for D&D.
Right. Because at its heart, D&D is about telling a story together.
And Kavoth, the main character, he's this legendary figure. But we see him when he's young, making mistakes, struggling, learning the hard way about power.
He even has imposter syndrome, which so many D&D players can relate to.
Right. He's not some perfect hero. He's relatable. He's flawed. And that's what makes his victories so great.
Imagine your players using Svoth's journey as inspiration for their own characters, exploring ambition, loss, the weight of expectations.
That's a campaign I'd love to play in.
Me too. And the magic system in King Killer. It's so subtle, almost like music,
Yeah.
tied to language and willpower.
You could do some really creative stuff with that in D&D.
For sure.
So we've got Sanderson for spectacle, Rothfuss for storytelling. What about something a little darker, a little grittier?
You're talking about Joe Abercrombie. The First Law trilogy.
Yes.
This is for people who want morally gray characters.
Oh, yeah.
Brutal combat. A world where good and evil aren't so clear-cut.
Abercrombie's characters are amazing, like Glokta.
The Torturer.
Yeah, or Giselle Dan Luther. They're not your typical heroes. They make bad decisions. They're selfish. But you can't help but be fascinated by them.
And the plots. They're full of twists, betrayals, alliances that shift like the wind.
It would be so much fun to run a D&D campaign like that.
Can you imagine? Your players think they know what's going on, and then bam, Abercrombie pulls the rug out from under them.
That's how you keep things interesting.
For sure.
Abercrombie really makes you question what it means to be a hero.
Totally. And the article doesn't stop there. It recommends a bunch of other fantasy worlds, each one with something different to offer. So hold on tight, because we're about to go on a whirlwind tour.
First stop, Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time.
Classic epic fantasy.
Huge world.
Intricate plots that go on forever.
And more characters than you can shake a stick at. Seriously. You need a spreadsheet to keep track of them all.
But if you want a D&D campaign that can last for years,
Even decades.
Wheel of Time is the place to go.
Jordan created so much detail.
You could lift entire countries from his books.
Drop them right into your D&D world.
And the prophecy
The way time works in that world,
is mind-blowing.
you could build some really epic narratives around that stuff.
Okay. Let's switch gears again. From epic scope to something a little darker.
A little more morally ambiguous.
Mark Lawrence's Broken Empire trilogy.
This is where you go if you want to play an anti-hero.
The main character, Jorg Ankrath, he's brutal, cunning, driven by revenge.
He's not your typical hero.
Not at all. He makes you question what's right and wrong.
You could have so much fun with a character like that in D&D.
As an NPC.
Or as inspiration for a player character.
Someone who's trying to redeem themselves.
No, maybe they just have a really messed up code of ethics.
And the Broken Empire itself, it's this shattered wasteland, ruled by warlords.
plagued by magic that's gone haywire. It's a perfect setting for dark and gritty D&D adventures.
All right. Ready for a challenge. Something that will really push your imagination.
You're talking about Steven Erikson's Malazan Book of the Fallen.
Oh, yeah. This is not for the faint of heart.
It's dense, it's complicated, there are so many characters.
So many plot threads.
But if you're willing to put in the work,
Malazan will reward you.
with some of the most incredible world building you'll ever see.
The magic system,
Like
the way Erikson blends history and mythology.
It's breathtaking.
Just imagine adapting the Warrens for D&D.
Those magical realms that connect everything.
They could be portals to other dimensions.
Sources of arcane power.
Even battlegrounds for epic conflicts.
And the way Erikson writes about gods and ascendant beings.
It's so different from the traditional D&D pantheon.
You could create some truly unique encounters and storylines based on that.
From epic battles to something a little more down to earth. How about some monster hunting?
Andrzej Sapkowski's Witcher series.
Now we're talking
Geralt of Rivia. A professional monster slayer.
in a world where humans can be just as dangerous as the creatures he hunts.
It's perfect for D&D campaigns that focus on exploration and moral dilemmas.
Adapt some of the creatures from the books.
Like the Striga.
Or the Leshen.
Throw in some political intrigue.
A dash of social commentary.
And you've got a recipe for a truly memorable D&D experience.
Finally, if you want a magic system that's both beautiful and dangerous,
Brent Week's Lightbringer series.
the Magic in Lightbringer is all about color,
Each hue representing a different aspect of magic.
with its own risks and rewards.
Imagine translating that into D&D.
Spells associated with different colors.
Magical items that glow with specific hues.
It would add a whole new visual dimension to the game.
And the characters in Lightbringer.
They're constantly wrestling with the temptations of
The
magic.
consequences of their actions.
You could explore those same themes with your D&D players.
Addiction.
Redemption.
The corrupting influence of power.
So many great books. So many awesome ideas for D&D.
It's really inspiring.
You know, even if a book isn't about D&D, it can still spark your creativity, give you a fresh perspective on your games.
Absolutely.
Speaking of sparking creativity, we got to talk about LitRPG. The article gives a shout out to Paul Bellow's Tower of Gates.
Oh, yeah. That's a fun one.
I mean, it's like
Yeah.
taking the idea of a D&D campaign and putting it right into the story.
Yeah. The characters level up, they gain stats, they even talk about experience points.
It's like D&D within a fantasy novel.
Meta.
Totally meta,
Yeah.
but also really cool.
It makes you think about how you could use those same elements in your own D&D games.
Right. Like, what if your characters suddenly became aware of their stats? Or started joking about needing a potion of healing?
It would add a whole new layer to the game.
A self-aware layer.
Exactly.
And that's what I love about LitRPG. It takes the mechanics of gaming and using them to make the story even better.
You can practically hear the dice rolling.
So we've talked about epic sagas, gritty realism, meta-narratives, and everything in between.
It's amazing how many different ways you can be inspired by fantasy books.
And how you can use that inspiration to level up your D&D games.
Whether you're a DM,
Or a player.
there's something out there for everyone.
So what resonated with you the most today?
Was it the magic systems?
The characters?
The world building.
Think about how you can take those ideas and make them your own.
Adapt them to your D&D games.
Make them come alive at your table. And here's a question for you. What fantasy novel has inspired your D&D game, and how? Share your stories in the comments below.
We'd love to hear from you.
Because ultimately, that's what this is all about.
Sharing stories.
Creating something awesome with your friends.
Having fun.
Couldn't have said it better myself. And a final nod to Paul Bellow
Fine fellow.
for reminding us that sometimes the best stories are the ones where the lines between games and reality get a little blurry. Until next time, may your dice rolls be ever in your favor.